The art of photography. Mastering the craft with the Blackjack method. Welcome to the Blackjack method, where we don't just learn photography, we experience it. This is not a class, it's a game, and the stakes are high. Every move counts. Every decision is a roll of the dice, and every shot you take is another chance to hit 21. Are you ready to play? Chapter 1. The Deal. Understanding the basics. Every great game starts with the deal. And in photography, this means understanding the basics. You can't win if you don't know the rules, and in this game, the rules are your camera settings, composition, and the principles of light. But don't worry, we're not going to spend hours poring over manuals. This is the Blackjack method, and we're going to hit these points fast. Your camera is your deck of cards, and every setting is a card you can play. Aperture, shutter speed, ISO, these are the cards in your hand. The trick is to know when to play them. Let's break it down. Aperture. This is your ace, the card that can be high or low. A wide aperture, low f-stop, gives you a shallow depth of field, perfect for portraits where you want the background to blur into creamy bokeh. A narrow aperture, high f-stop, is your go-to for landscapes, keeping everything sharp and in focus. Shutter speed. Think of this as your face card, the one that can make or break your hand. Fast shutter speeds freeze motion, great for action shots or when you're shooting in bright light. Slow it down and you can capture motion blur, adding a dynamic element to your photos. But be careful, too slow and your shot could be a bust. ISO, this is your wild card. High ISO can save a shot in low light, but push it too far, and you'll be dealing with noise. Those grainy imperfections that can ruin an otherwise perfect photo. Keep your ISO low whenever you can, but don't be afraid to bump it up when you need to. Now let's talk about composition, the strategy behind every great shot. The rule of thirds is like splitting a pair of eights. It's a safe bet that often pays off. Imagine your frame divided into 9 equal parts by 2 horizontal and 2 vertical lines. Place your subject along these lines or at their intersections, and you'll create a balanced, engaging image. Finally, there's light, the true dealer in the game of photography. You can have the best hand in the world, but if the light isn't right, you'll never hit 21. Natural light is always a safe bet, especially during the golden hour, the soft, warm light just after sunrise or before sunset. But don't be afraid to play with artificial light, whether it's a simple flash or a complex studio setup. Chapter 2. Counting cards. Developing your eye. Once you know the basics, it's time to start counting cards. In photography, this means developing your eye, learning to see the world in a way that others don't. This isn't about cheating the system. It's about finding your edge, the thing that makes your photos stand out. Start by studying the greats. Look at the work of legendary photographers like Ansel Adams, Henri Cartier-Bresson, and Annie Leibovitz. Notice how they play with light, composition, and subject matter. But don't just mimic their work. Use it as inspiration to find your own style. Practice is key. Carry your camera with you everywhere and take photos every day. Experiment with different genres. Portrait, landscape, street, macro, until you find the one that resonates with you. Pay attention to the details, the way light falls on a subject, the interplay of colors, the emotions evoked by a scene. Don't be afraid to take risks. In Blackjack, sometimes you have to double down to win big. In photography, this means pushing your boundaries, trying new techniques, shooting in challenging conditions, and stepping out of your comfort zone. The more risks you take, the more you'll learn, and the better your photos will become. Chapter 3. The strategy. Mastering techniques. Now that you've got a solid foundation, it's time to develop your strategy. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of photography, advanced techniques that will take your work to the next level. Long exposure. This technique is like holding on to a low pair in blackjack, risky, but with the potential for a big payoff. By using a slow shutter speed, you can capture stunning images of motion, like the blur of car lights at night or the smooth flow of water over rocks. But you'll need a tripod to keep your camera steady, and you'll have to be patient, waiting for the perfect moment to press the shutter. HDR, high dynamic range. In blackjack, sometimes you need to split your hand to maximize your chances. In photography, HDR is like splitting the difference between highlights and shadows. By taking multiple exposures of the same scene, one for the highlights, one for the midtones, and one for the shadows, you can combine them into a single image that captures the full range of light. The result is a photo with incredible detail, even in challenging lighting conditions. Bokeh. This is the art of selective focus, where the subject is sharp and the background is a beautiful blur. It's like hitting 21 with a perfect hand. To achieve this, use a wide aperture, low f-stop, and focus on your subject, letting the background fall softly out of focus. This technique works especially well for portraits, making the subject stand out against a dreamy, abstract backdrop. Panning. In blackjack, timing is everything, and the same is true for panning. This technique involves moving your camera in sync with a moving subject, resulting in a sharp subject against a blurred background. It's perfect for capturing action shots, like a car racing down the street or a runner crossing the finish line. The key is to use a slow shutter speed and follow the subject's movement smoothly, pressing the shutter at just the right moment. Chapter 4. Playing the Game. Real-world applications. It's time to take what you've learned and apply it in the real world. This is where the game gets serious, where your skills are put to the test in a variety of situations. Portrait photography. Think of this as your ace in the hole, the shot that can make or break your hand. Portrait photography is all about capturing the essence of a person, their personality, and their emotions. The key is to connect with your subject, making them feel comfortable and relaxed. Use a wide aperture to create a shallow depth of field, drawing attention to the subject's eyes. Pay attention to the light, whether it's natural or artificial, and use it to enhance the mood of the photo. Landscape photography. This is your steady bet, the reliable hand that always pays off. Landscapes are all about capturing the beauty of the natural world, from sweeping vistas to intimate details. Use a narrow aperture to keep everything in focus, and shoot during the golden hour for the best light. Don't forget to include a point of interest, a tree, a rock, a person, to draw the viewer's eye into the scene. Street photography is the wild card, the shot that can go either way. Street photography is about capturing the spontaneity of life, the moments that happen in an instant and are gone just as quickly. The key is to be quick on the draw, ready to snap a photo at a moment's notice. Use a fast shutter speed to freeze the action, and don't be afraid to get close to your subject. The best street photos are those that tell a story, capturing a slice of life in a single frame. Macro photography. This is your secret weapon, the shot that reveals a world hidden from view. Macro photography is all about getting up close and personal, capturing the tiny details that are often overlooked. Use a macro lens and a narrow aperture to keep everything in focus, and pay attention to the light, using a soft, diffused source to avoid harsh shadows. The result is a photo that brings the viewer into a new world, full of intricate patterns and textures. Chapter 5. The Endgame. Post-processing and presentation. The final step in the blackjack method is the endgame, post-processing and presentation. This is where you take your raw photos and turn them into finished works of art. Post-processing. In blackjack, sometimes you need to tweak your strategy to win, and the same is true for photography. Post-processing is like fine-tuning your hand, adjusting the exposure, contrast, and color to get the perfect result. Use software like Adobe Lightroom or Photoshop to make these adjustments, but don't overdo it. Less is often more. The goal is to enhance the photo, not to create something that looks unnatural. Presentation. The way you present your photos is just as important as the photos themselves. Think of this as the final hand in a high-stakes game. Whether you're sharing your work online, printing it for a gallery, or creating a portfolio, the key is to choose the right format for each photo. Consider the size, the paper or screen quality, and the layout. A well-presented photo will have a much greater impact than one that's poorly displayed. Chapter 6. Winning the Game. Building a Portfolio and Career. You've learned the basics, mastered the techniques, and honed your skills in the field. Now it's time to win the game, building a portfolio and launching a career in photography. Building a portfolio. Your portfolio is your ace in the hole, the thing that will set you apart from other photographers. Choose your best work, the photos that showcase your style and skills, and organize them into a cohesive collection. Pay attention to the flow. Each photo should lead naturally to the next, creating a narrative that draws the viewer in. Keep your portfolio updated, and don't be afraid to remove older work that no longer represents your best. Launching a career. Breaking into the world of professional photography is like entering a high-stakes tournament. The competition is fierce, but with the right strategy, you can come out on top. Start by building a strong online presence. Create a website, share your work on social media, and engage with your audience. Network with other photographers, attend workshops and events, and never stop learning. The more you put yourself out there, the more opportunities you'll create. Chapter 7. The Blackjack Master. Continuing the journey. Even when you've mastered the game, there's always more to learn. Photography is an ever-evolving art form, and the best photographers are those who continue to grow and adapt. Continuing education. Stay ahead of the game by continuing to learn. Take online courses, attend workshops, and read books on photography. Experiment with new techniques, try different genres, and always be open to new ideas. The more you learn, the better you'll become. Finding inspiration. Inspiration is the fuel that keeps the creative fire burning. Find it in the work of other photographers, in the world around you, and in your own life experiences. Keep a notebook or a digital file of ideas, sketches, and concepts. When you're feeling stuck, revisit these notes to spark your creativity. Pushing the boundaries. The best photographers are those who push the boundaries of what's possible. Don't be afraid to take risks, to try something new, and to fail. The more you push yourself, the more you'll discover your true potential. And there you have it, the art of photography, taught through the fast-paced, high-energy blackjack method. Now it's your turn to play the game. Pick up your camera, go out into the world, and start capturing the shots that will make you a winner.